Today I'll be showing you how to make a creamy and delicious flan made with passion fruit. But first, let's start with the ingredients that we're going to need. First, one of the most important ingredients is the sugar. Here I have 1 cup of sugar, which we'll use to make the caramel, and lots of it because I believe every piece should have a good amount of it. Then we have a 12-ounce can of evaporated milk. Here I'm using the Carnation brand, but I use any brand I have at home. For the evaporated milk, I think the brand doesn't make the difference. Then we have the condensed milk. I'm using a 14-ounce can. Here I'm using the Walmart Great Valley brand, but just like the evaporated milk, the brand doesn't matter. We also add a touch of vanilla extract to the recipe. I used 1 tablespoon of the vanilla extract. Then we have the eggs. Here I use 5 whole eggs. The eggs help us have a firm texture while still being creamy and smooth. Last, we have the star of the show, the passion fruit pulp. Here I use 1/4 of a cup, which is strong in flavor, so a little bit goes a long way. The first thing we need to do when making a flan is to make the caramel. For this, we're going to use the cup of granulated sugar we have. Now, this is the part where most people fail when making a flan, because if you mess up the caramel, you can mess up the whole recipe. But the caramel is easier to make than what most people think. Today, you'll learn how to make it like a pro. All you have to do is add the sugar to the pan over high heat and watch it closely. You'll start noticing how the border of the sugar starts to melt. First, it has a clear color, then it starts getting a darker color. Once you see this happening, you want to slowly start stirring the sugar and spread it around the pan. Now, some people suggest not to stir the caramel because it starts to form little sugar lumps. And while this is true, all of those sugar balls will melt while cooking the caramel. Trust me when I tell you, you want to stir that caramel to avoid it from getting burnt at the bottom. You will start to see the sugar bubbling, and we want to stir because the caramel under there will burn if we don't do so. What some people do to avoid stirring the caramel is to brush down the sides of the pan with water. That method works, and the one I'm showing you does too. So either way, you're good. Once you have a good amount of sugar melted, you want to stir without stopping. This will help move the sugar around and melt it faster. Once you notice that you only have a few tiny lumps of sugar, you want to turn off the heat, but you have to still stir to make sure the clumps left melt all the way through. Then we need to pour the caramel into our mold. Here I'm using a 9x3 round mold, but you could use a different shape mold if you like. Make sure you scrape everything well to get all that caramel. Now you need to carefully move the mold around so you can spread the caramel. Keep swirling the caramel around until it looks even. I like to spread it around so it could cover the bottom of the mold and about 1 inch high of the mold. You just have to work quickly because the caramel sets very fast. But you also have to be careful because the caramel can cause a bad burn if it touches your skin. Now preheat your oven to 350 degrees so it can be ready by the time you finish the base. Now we have to mix the flan base. In a blender, I first like to add the evaporated milk. Then we add the condensed milk and make sure to scrape everything off the can because this is what adds the sweetness to our base. Here I'm using a blender, but you can mix this by hand. It just takes a little more effort to incorporate everything, especially the condensed milk. Then we add the vanilla extract and we blend. We want to mix just enough until we can no longer see the condensed milk at the bottom of the blender. This should take about a minute. Now we need to add the eggs, but we must add the eggs 1 by 1. We add them 1 by 1 to make sure they are well incorporated. If you don't do so, you run the risk of your flan being denser than what it's supposed to. And in the case of a flan, you want a creamy and light texture. Make sure that when you add your eggs to the flan base, they're the last or almost last ingredient added because we don't want to incorporate too much air into the mixture with the eggs in it. Last, we add the passion fruit pulp and mix. Usually when we pour the caramel into the mold, it tends to crack when it gets cool, but that's fine. It's not gonna affect the final product. Then what we do is strain our flan mixture into the mold. We do this to make sure we don't have any big pieces of eggs left and to make sure we get the creamiest flan texture possible. Then one of the most important steps that I forgot to do, but you won't do so, is to gently tap the mold against your table to make sure there are no air bubbles get trapped in the mix. Now we need to put our mold in a bigger pan to make a bain-marie or a water bath. You want to add hot water until it reaches about half of the flan mold. Then we take the mold into a preheated oven to cook for an hour. Now, if you don't have an oven, you can still make this flan in the stovetop. You just need to use a flanera. Then we remove the flan from the oven and check for readiness. Use a fork or a toothpick and insert in the middle of the flan. If it comes out clean, it means the flan is cooked correctly. Before releasing the flan from the mold, make sure it is cool at room temperature before putting it in the fridge to cool at least for 2 hours. We need to release the flan from the mold. To do so, we need to carefully run a small knife around the border of the mold. The flan should separate easily. Then what I like to do is gently shake the mold in an almost circular motion to make sure the flan is not stuck to the bottom of the mold. Then to serve the flan, we need a plate that is bigger than the mold. Plus, the plate or tray that you use should have a high border so your caramel doesn't spill all over. We need to press the plate against the top of your mold tightly. Give it a last shake and flip it quickly to avoid spilling all the caramel. Don't be afraid of this step. Just make sure your mold is not hot to the touch so you won't drop it. Now, slowly rise the mold up. It should take a little bit of force because it tends to get stuck to the plate. And voila, you have a perfect, delicious flan with a big, noticeable hole in it. And this is the reason we gently tap our mold after putting the flan mixture in to remove any air bubbles. I could have done another flan, but I wanted to show you the mistakes too so we could all learn. And still, look how delicious that flan looks. It is silky, creamy, just how I like it. Look how it's drenched in that smooth caramel. The flan needs no topping because you want the passion fruit flavor to shine. The passion fruit flavor is smooth and subtle, but it stays in your mouth and it makes you want more. It makes you want another bite. For the days that I really want a topping, what I like to serve it with is a scoop of coconut sorbet if I have it, or some coconut ice cream. Trust me, try it. It is delicious. If you have any comments, questions, please leave them below. Remember that the printable recipe is in the description below, and also the link to the flanera and all the tools I used. Buen provecho, and thanks for watching.